Hello everybody, it's Mike again, and I'm going to break down for you in this video. Part of winning is being flexible. Part of winning is being flexible. So we hear a lot of people talk about don't quit, never give up, so on and so forth. Well, I get that and I believe in that. But if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same results, then you probably do need to quit. You don't want to quit pursuing your goal if that's what you're set on. But you're going to have to quit doing the same thing you've been doing. You're going to have to become flexible. I mean, if you keep trying to chisel a hole in the concrete and you're not getting anywhere, you're gonna have to try something different. Okay? And so the concept of never giving up, never quit is totally valid. And there's been many stories where people gave up only to find out the next guy that comes in and takes over makes a fortune, whether it was a real estate development or some sort of business, whatever the case may be. Maybe the key to them not quitting or staying the course would have been becoming flexible, looking for other options, looking for a different way to continue on with the pursuit of that particular goal. So again, before you quit, maybe you need to consider looking for other ways to skin the cat, so to speak. Be more flexible. And so if you've been doing something like a fitness program and you're not getting the results that you want, certainly you want to keep going, but you may need to change it up a bit. Maybe you got to change your diet. Maybe you got to cut out the cokes, something. So in the beginning, we talk about starting out as a beginner fitness walking program. Just focus on the walking. Don't try to cut out all your other bad habits at the same time, because it contributes to more likelihood that you would quit before you ever get past the 60 days. So what I'm talking about is after you're way beyond the 60 days and maybe you're not getting the results that you want, certainly don't quit, but maybe you got to be a little more flexible about how you're doing what you're doing. That might mean getting more information, getting additional information about how you can improve your results. There's plenty of information available. I'm always looking at additional information. There's a lot of doctors out there on YouTube and Twitter that are giving out a lot of good information on how certain ideas about health are wrong, what's the reality of it versus the myth. You know, how does this particular study pan out versus what you hear on the news. You can get a lot of good information from those folks. You can follow them, and I would encourage you to do so. You know, because the more you focus on getting information to help you achieve your goal, the more likelihood that you're going to achieve it and continue forward with it. And remember, what you focus on, you attract more of into your life. So if you're focused on getting fit, goal achievement, getting healthy, then obviously you're going to be moving in that direction. So again, the flexibility component of winning is probably the most underrated or overlooked aspect of goal achievement. Okay? The flexibility. What kind of adjustments do you need to make? Do you need to adjust your diet if it's a fitness plan? If it's a business deal? Do you need to get some additional people involved to help you? I mean, I've got one blockbuster story. I guess I should go ahead and tell it now. So this client of mine, I'm not going to use his real name, but let's just call him Mr. Smith. Well, Mr. Smith and his partners, they owned a popular TV station, local TV station, and a very popular local radio station in a large metropolitan area. And they owed $50 million to the banks, and the banks were moving in on them. And so it was a pretty dire situation, and they were trying to come up with a plan. And Mr. Smith was telling me the story. He's like, I said, well, what'd you do? He said, well, they play all kind of games with you. The bank wanted to foreclose on us because they were very, very valuable properties. But we were in over our heads, and we're trying to figure a solution. Now, this person was not only a businessman, he was a lawyer, so it wasn't like he was, not understanding the legalities of all these things. But what happened was that the bank came in and they were trying to play psychological games, like, we need you to take a psychological examination, to build the case that, hey, maybe you're unfit for this, so you just go ahead and turn over the properties. They really wanted the properties. They wanted the TV station. They wanted the radio station. They wanted the licenses, because they knew they could turn around and have another buyer waiting in the wings. So they had to make an adjustment. He said, I would meet with my bankruptcy attorney every 2 weeks. We had the filings ready to go at a moment's notice to try to stave this off. So this was a struggle. This would be one of those situations about never quitting. Don't quit. Keep working, trying to come up with a solution. Be flexible. So out of the blue, they went to another bank. The bank was Barclays Bank. Now, this story was back in the 80s, okay? Things have changed. But back then, there were no internet, mobile phones. So radio and TV was pretty much the name of the game. And if you own two of the prize assets in a multi-million population metropolitan area, you had something, okay? So everybody was licking their chops. Well, somehow they got in touch with Barclays Bank. I don't remember how that came about, but Barclays decided that, yeah, we'll refinance your loans, but as part of this package, you're going to have to put this man in as your CEO. And the man's name was Robert Sillerman. Robert Sillerman was a guy that was a businessman, and he was the one that got involved with Elvis Presley's estate and turned it around, built it into a multi-million-dollar empire. But that was after this particular time frame I'm talking about. But Robert Sillerman, at the bank's directed, he was put in charge. And to make a long story short, within about 4 years, maybe it was 3 years, 4 to 3 years, they sold out for many, many, many millions more than the loan and everything. They made millions. my client, Mr. Smith, made millions. His partners made millions. So there's a situation, a real life story, as it was told to me by someone who's very close to me, actually went through it, that, never quit, but be flexible. You get in that type of scenario, and sometimes it just seems like that. If you got something really good, there's going to be people that are going to be trying to take it from you. I don't want that to sound negative, but there's a lot of sharks out there. And sharks love to get in a frenzy over something they think's good. And sometimes you're just going to have to hang on, and you're going to have to look for alternatives to help you wade through the shark fest. Okay? Now, one other component to this story is that when they got to the closing table to sell the properties, the people that were buying this radio station and TV station were the Rockefellers, were entities owned by the Rockefellers. And during this time period, and for many years after, the Rockefellers were buying up all the media companies. And that's where we get the concept of the fake news media that's been talked about, that they don't really report the real stuff. They have agendas. And of course, I'm not going to get into all that today, but the reality is the Rockefellers were buying these properties. And at the closing table, at this law office or wherever it was, there was a partition between the room that my client was in and the Rockefeller lawyers. And there was a little gap above the wall, and my client had just happened to get a new hearing aid, and he heard them talking, so he decided to get up on the table and listen in on what they were saying. And he said what was being discussed was that they would file a lawsuit in the state of New York, which would force my client and them to fight in court to try to get this closing done, and that it would bankrupt them, and they would end up getting this stuff for a song. So as he heard this discussion being played out, he immediately picked up the phone and called his lawyer back in Georgia, where this transaction was actually, the properties were, and told the lawyer, his lawyer, to go ahead and immediately file some sort of lawsuit in Georgia, which would stave off any sort of a legal action of some kind in New York. And I don't understand the ramifications of what this legal maneuvering was, but it gives you an inside glimpse of how some of these so-called really rich Rockefeller people and high-level elitist, globalist, whatever you want to call them, parties operate. They have no morality whatsoever. It's strictly how can we get it and take it and break them. And if you study the Rockefellers, going back to the original Rockefeller Standard Oil, and you read the books about all the different tactics they used to get the stuff, get the oil, get the land, it's pretty rough stuff, okay? But somewhere along the line, everybody equates great wealth to being, they must be moral people. It's just not the case. I'm not saying everybody that's very wealthy is corrupt or evil, but there are a lot of them. And I think now with the internet and everything, we're able to understand more about some of these people. Rockefellers being one of them. Of course, you've heard stories through the years of the Rothschilds, and now the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers have merged their business interests together, and they operate as a combined entity, which is kind of interesting. So, back to the original title, and that is, winning means being flexible. So I shared this story with you. Maybe you can apply it to your own situation when it comes up, or if it comes up, and to encourage you not to quit, but to be flexible and be willing to look for other avenues or workarounds before you get your big breakthrough. Thanks.